Okay, so picture this. On one hand, you've got a local TV station in Mexicali, Mexico, just doing its daily broadcast. On the other, you have a top-secret intelligence memo hitting the president's desk in the US. Sounds totally unrelated, right? Well, today, we're diving into the pretty wild claims in that memo that say these two things are deeply, deeply connected.
I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? A local TV station threatening an entire nation. But, according to this official U.S. intelligence memo, the answer is a hard yes. The document basically argues that what you're seeing on screen isn't just fluffy entertainment. It's a calculated campaign of cross-border influence, and it's got some pretty serious consequences. So, let's get into it. We're going to unpack the three main allegations from this memo. We need to see exactly what got its authors so worried. And it all kicks off with a pretty heavy term they use: ideological subversion. Okay, so the first big piece of this puzzle is what the memo calls ideological subversion. Now, this isn't about the news or some political talk show. No, this is about something completely different beamed into people's living rooms day in and day out. The memo gets really specific about the kind of shows it's targeting. We're talking daily tarot card readings, horoscope consultations, spiritual cleansings, you get the picture. And get this isn't some weird show buried in the middle of the night. It airs at 1 p.m., prime time, right before the news, and it's constantly pushing viewers to pay for these mystical services. So you might be thinking, what's the big deal? It's just horoscopes, right? Well, according to the person who wrote this memo, it is not harmless fun. The big fear is that this stuff chips away at traditional values. It gets people looking for magical solutions to very real problems. And the memo argues that a population that thinks like that, well, they're a lot easier to manipulate. And this is where things get really intense. To drive the point home, the memo makes some pretty dramatic and controversial comparisons. It brings up Nazi Germany using occultism and this thing called Arya Safi to push their ideology. It also points to places like Cuba and Venezuela, where it claims the state allows religions like Santeria to flourish, basically to give people a ritual outlet for their frustrations instead of a political one. The bottom line, according to the memo, is that this TV programming is doing something similar. It's designed to weaken the very fabric of society. But wait, there's more. The memo's claims don't just stop at what's on TV. The second big allegation is way more direct. We're moving from the airwaves to the actual streets. And this is where the memo connects the station's fun, cultural events directly to organized crime. Okay, so for this next part to make sense, you need a little bit of context on a religious tradition. It's called the Visita a los Siete Templos, or the Visit to the Seven Churches. It's a really important, very serious Catholic pilgrimage that happens during Holy Week. It's all about prayer and reflecting on the Passion of Christ. So you have this very sacred tradition. What does Canal 66 do with it? Well, the memo says they didn't just ignore it. Oh no, they took it and they completely twisted it. Here's the punchline. Canal 66 started promoting its own Seven Templos event. But instead of visiting 7 churches, it was a citywide pub crawl to 7 different bars. Yeah. The memo presents this as a blatant mockery, taking a Holy Week of reflection and turning it into one giant party. But honestly, making fun of a religious tradition isn't even the biggest bombshell here. The real kicker, according to this intel memo, is that those 7 bars on the pub crawl, they're allegedly controlled by Los Russos, a known faction of the infamous Sinaloa cartel. So the TV station wasn't just promoting a party. It was allegedly funneling thousands of people and their money directly into the pockets of the cartel. All right, on to the third and final claim. And this one is probably the most complicated. We're diving into the murky world of political manipulation now. The memo alleges that this TV station isn't just reporting the news, it's literally creating it, staging events to control the entire political story. The memo gives a perfect example. There's this journalist, right? He gets fired, very dramatically, live on the air, supposedly for making fun of the governor. As you can imagine, he goes viral, instantly becomes this hero, this martyr for free speech. But, and this is a huge but, the memo claims the whole thing was an act, a total performance. The idea, it alleges, was to create a false opponent, basically someone who looks like they're standing up to the government, but in reality, they're just a smokescreen to distract everyone from any real opposition. So why on earth would a TV station do that? Well, the memo lays out a very interesting chain of command, you could say.
Turns out, the current mayor of Mexicali, who is from the ruling political party, used to be a longtime employee of the family that owns Canal 66. So the memo is basically saying, look, there's this cozy, deep-seated connection between the station and the very politicians they're pretending to criticize on air.
Okay, so we've got these three big, separate allegations: cultural subversion, ties to organized crime, and staged political drama. This is where the memo connects all the dots. It finally answers that big question we started with. Why should the United States care about any of this? I mean, it's a TV station in Mexico, right? The memo's argument is simple. These threats, the cultural one, the criminal one, and the political one, they don't just stop at the border fence. The station's signal is so strong it beams directly into Southern California, and the document claims that all of that influence is spilling right across the border, creating very real risks for the U.S.
And it gets specific about what those risks are on American soil. First, it warns that it's weakening cultural ties within Mexican-American communities. Second, it's a security concern because it's making cartel-run businesses seem normal. And third, it could be indoctrinating young Americans, making them more tolerant of authoritarian ideas. So based on all of this, the memo doesn't just raise the alarm. It lays out a very specific 4-point plan for the U.S. government. Step 1, start monitoring the station's signal in the U.S. Step 2, talk to Mexican officials about these concerns. Step 3, fund community programs on the U.S. side to counteract the influence. And Step 4, get the DEA and the FBI to launch a full-blown investigation into these alleged links between the station, the politicians, and the cartel. And that really is the huge question this memo leaves hanging in the air. It paints this incredibly detailed and frankly alarming picture of how media, crime, and politics can all get tangled up and spill across a border. Now, we have to remember, for now, these are just allegations in a confidential report. But they absolutely force us to ask a really tough modern question. In a world where information and culture just flow everywhere, where does a neighbor's influence stop and a national threat begin?